I don't know. There was the centre who played for the Broncos who was born in Halifax.
Jack Reed, yeah.
Jack Reed, who I think he was picked because he played in the NRL, but at the time we weren't exactly blessed with centres. You know, Gildart, Percival, players like that hadn't emerged yet, and we have more options there now. So, yeah.
Yeah. Chris Hyington. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, he played more than one time though, didn't he, for England? I think he played in more. He was in more than one squad. So I think there's a bit of there's a slight difference there to McQueen. He you know, he at least had more than one conversation with the squad.
Speaking of Down Under, Garth Brennan has been relieved of his duties as head coach of the Gold Coast Titans after less than 2 years in charge. The 47-year-old who spent most of his career coaching in Australia's National Youth Cup and the New South Wales Cup only secured his first senior coaching role at the Titans back in October 2017. However, with just 4 wins from 16 games this term, he has left the Titans rooted to the foot of the table, 8 points off the playoffs. Now, rumours around who they might get to replace them include Justin Holbrook.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Holbrook leaving mid-season in any way, shape or form, so obviously they'll have to have a temporary replacement if that's the case. It does seem more and more likely that Holbrook will be back in the NRL next season. Although, you know, if Saints bottle it in the semi-finals or finals again this year and don't win either of the two big finals, then you'd got to be questioning his position at the club anyway, wouldn't you? Because you can't have a bottle job coach for a bottle job team, but... No, he's
never stopped them before.
He's been remarkable. He's produced a remarkably consistent side that execute their skill to a high standard almost every week. And in fact,
he does seem like that sort of an NRL type coach, very calm, controlled, everything. He's not doesn't appear to be, apart from when talking about referees. Yeah. Apart from that, he does seem to have it fairly under control and. Yeah, so he seems like he would fit in that mentality where you're under that much more scrutiny that you can't afford outbursts.
Yeah, and that was, you know, the link with Holbrook was one of the reasons why it was relevant to the Super League, but the other reason why it's relevant to us guys really is Garth Brennan's kind of been the English player at the Gold Coast Titans career killer. You know, he had no time for Dan Sargentson, sent him packing. It was pretty much his first decision once he came into the job. And Joe Greenwood was fine for the Titans the year before, but last year he just didn't want to play him. So halfway through the season he decided he wasn't going to give him a game and stuff. So now they've signed Callum Watkins, which again he was rumoured to not really be wanting to happen. So he wasn't going to play him, was he?
No.
You got a feel. He didn't play him last week, and so I think it's good news that the new coach might come in, and actually that might be helpful for Callum Watkins, who obviously is thrown back into a position of being at the bottom of the table, something he's become familiar with.
Hey, and finally,
Castleford Tigers will contest the Women's Challenge Cup final against Leeds on Saturday the 27th of July, despite fielding an ineligible player in their semi-final against Wakefield. Francesca Townend will not feature in the game at the University of Bolton Stadium final, having already played for Alton Raiders, or Raidettes, in an earlier round.
Raidettes.
Cass did win that semi-final 100-0 against local rivals Trinity. The Rugby Football League will decide on punishment at a later date. It looks like, from the statements and then looking at the rules that apply to these Tier 4 to 6 community game competitions, so for amateurs, like the women's game is at the moment, it could potentially mean that they fine Townend £100 for not realising that she played for a different team already in the competition, and Cass might get a suspended fine potentially for not doing their due diligence on that signing. But obviously it's a lower ranked competition, so the rules are slightly different, and there is a bit more leeway for the RFL to make a pragmatic decision, let's say. And to be honest, they've made the right decision, because this Wakefield side is in their first year in the Super League. They're a developing team rather than a developed team. They would have got butchered by Leeds, whereas Castleford Leeds is going to be a cracker.
Yeah, exactly. It was trying to make it the best final possible. They have to have an eye on that as the governing body, because Leeds and their outside backs in particular against Wakefield, in that could turn ugly.
I think, Wakefield maybe wouldn't have even wanted to be embarrassed on the big stage.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, true.
I mean, I've only seen Wakefield a couple of times this year, the women's side, and they look like a side that aren't quite ready for it. But we needed to grow the Women's Super League competition. We needed to get more players exposed to better challenges because we need to grow our performance squad for the women's competition as well. So how do you do that? You get good players playing against very good players so that they can understand where they have to get to. So having them in the Super League is totally right, but this would have been the wrong decision if they'd have reinstated them back into the Cup. I mean, play this game again without Townend and it still could be 100-0 to Cass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Well, there we go. Do you know where I'm going to file that?
Whoa. Totally wrong
yeah.
angle there. Yeah, cheating Cass got let off here. The big club in that division, the club that gets all the crowds, all the press. Obviously, the RFL are going to side with a big club, aren't they? Bias to their core.
Cheating, yeah, and the refs are, the refs should have realised and sent her off, but they didn't because the refs are all been paid off.
Yeah. By Cass, the big fish in that small pond of Women's Super League.
Also, though, if the declared attendance was a record, how many people were actually there, given half of them snuck through the turnstiles and didn't pay because they were cheats?
Cheating Castleford fans, women's side, Darryl Powell walking across pitches, breaking rules all the time. I mean, they're just a disgrace to the sport.
Hashtag not coif.
Right, let's move on from the news into Super League match reviews. It's round 22 of the Super League that we've just seen. An average attendance of 10,384 gives it a rank of third amongst all regular seasons this year. So basically, it's only behind the Good Friday round and the opening round. So what does those two rounds and this round have in common, Tim?
Everything was played on a Friday?
No, Wigan played against Saints.
Oh.
But anyway.
Good guess.
Yeah. So, do you want to take us through the first game of this round, the Thursday night game?
Yes, it finished Hull FC 35, London 22, having been 34-0 at half-time, in front of 11,401, refereed by Mr. Liam Moore. In terms of the stats, Hull FC won all the stats apart from errors, which they lost 15-9. But 350 more metres at 1.9 metres per carry, better average gain, and 3 more breaks with 6 more offloads saw the home side win the stats. London went below 1,000 metres, which is the danger line. In terms of the individuals, Beretta Farimo, 1 try assist, 7 tackle busts, 146 metres, 2 clean breaks, and he smuggled off 3 offloads as well. Mickey Pear ran for 146 metres. Danny Houghton made 1 try assist, 54 tackles and 13 mark tackles, so he had a bit of a lazy night for his standards. And Josh Griffin, 1 try assist, 7 tackle busts and 106 metres. For the losing London Broncos, just the one person making the stats lines, and that was Rhys Williams, 1 try assist and 104 metres. And we had some fan views on this one.
Yes, and as normal with a Thursday night game, we had a good helping of these. Tom Andrews was first. He said, first half thinking, oh, the smelly sods are doing us a favour here. Nice one, lads. Second half reminded me why I call them smelly sods in the first place, because they were shite. Their performance was as flat as the atmosphere, not even a chant about KR, which is very rare. PS is no longer the new Grace, in brackets, one highlight and fuck all else.
That's harsh on 2 players. Malkarma Teos says, bad schedule karma episode fucking 500. It was looking like London had thought the match was on Friday, cause Friday. Every match is on Friday nowadays. Then Hull decide to put the queue in the rack and come back tomorrow, cause Friday. Every match is on Friday nowadays.
This one wasn't on Friday.
Yeah. There we go.
Oh, I get it. Right. Paul said, London season, one half wonders.
Yeah. Joshua's granddad said, a game of cliches, Jekyll and Hyde performance, a game in two halves, champagne and stale beer, from an outstanding first half to the absolute dross of the second. Dixon, the first 40, reminded us of how crap a fullback he was. Still looking for the bus name for Remo that flattened him.
Yeah, Dixon, not a fullback, is
no.
Is developed into quite the resolute winger who can do the exit set stuff, catch balls. Fullback, no. Rich Langley said, first half, this was the first game I've been able to catch in a while and I'm glad I did. Hull looked absolute world beaters with every player stepping up and helping to deliver classy tries. We looked like we could be on course for silverware with this form. London had no answer whatsoever to our play. Second half, this was the first game I've been able to catch for a while, so I'm sorry I did. Hull looked absolute no-hopers with every player stepping up to increase our error stats. We looked like we could be on course for relegation with this form. We had no answer whatsoever to London's play.
And finally, rounding us off, Sarah Mackenzie Scoots said, OK, so we did exactly what I criticised Wire for last week, but at least we scored a point in the second half. If London can replicate their second half performances in the first, they won't be going down. Some lovely team play for the Hull tries. Yeah, it was a weird one, wasn't it? It was very up and down. And certainly the performance... I mean, you've got to put some circumstance into the London team that they had a number of players who probably shouldn't have been playing. They had a big injury list and they had a large contingent of their youth and players who are probably on the fringes of that squad that were playing. You had what's his name? Sam Davis coming at hooker, who's been playing out at Coventry most of the season. Hindmarsh, who's been at Scholars the week before.
And Sheffield has played a few games at Sheffield in the Championship.
Alex Walker not fit again, so that's why Kieran Dixon was at fullback. Ben Hellawell kept his place in the centres, which saw Elliot Keir move out onto the wing. So they were juggled around, and again, even that halves combination of Cunningham and Fozzard did look a bit patched up as well. So it's not a surprise. And obviously Sadiq Adebayo starting as well rather than coming off the bench. So they were forced into a lot of changes through the players they had out. So they were always going to be starting at a lower base than they could have been. But then that second half just showed what they could do.
Yeah, I mean, one thing in the first half is, although the tries were nice from Hull FC, they didn't exactly feel hard to score. One fend off halfway up the pitch, and then you had three galloping black and whites ready to take the ball one way or the other and score a nice team try, like Sarah says. It was a bit easy. Maybe Danny Ward used that to say, look, you're on Sky here, there's going to be 150,000, 200,000 people watching, you're embarrassing yourselves, and some of you, this is your opportunity to show what you can do at this level. Like you just explained, people like Hellawell, people like Hindmarsh, they haven't really had much of a go this year, have they? So, yeah, I think they had some motivation to come out in the second half, and Hull just totally took the foot off the gas, which was stupid because points difference could be important still, and theirs is not good.
No. And yeah, they need everything that they can get. And you think just from a confidence and structures playing view, they needed to get something together, really. And so just getting used to conceding that many points in a half isn't good for the muscle memory. The Now Longo try we've got to talk about, because that was a piece of spectacular skill to poach that and then keep going with it, and then the speed and that you've come to expect from him.
Yeah, he's a powerful runner, isn't he?
Oh. Yeah, very much powerful, and it was setting up to be a very good try, and it just the sort of Hollywood volleyball pass over the top that was just so easy to poach. Perhaps a bit needless that London were doing that. Perhaps a bit more game sense, they wouldn't have tried that, but